If your phone buzzes in the shower and you risk getting electrocuted to read it, you're hiding something. Jason Miller stood beneath the scalding water, steam clouding the glass like secrets he'd rather not face. The air was thick, humid, suffocating, like the lies he'd been living. One hand wiped his fogged screen while the other steadied his muscular frame against the wall. A single message lit up his phone with a ding louder than it should have been. "Let's meet at the same hotel we met last week. Rooms booked. Can't wait, Nia," he grinned. That crooked, boyish smirk that used to charm Clara in college now served a much darker purpose. Downstairs, Clara was setting the breakfast table pancakes, turkey bacon, and fresh-cut mango, the way Jason liked it. The smell of cinnamon filled the air as their daughter, 8-year-old Amaya, colored. At the table, Clara stirred her coffee slowly, staring into the swirl of cream like it could answer the question that had haunted her for weeks. Jason had changed. Late hours, cold kisses, and the worst, he guarded his phone like it was a bomb ready to detonate. This morning was different. She didn't just feel it in her chest, she felt it in her bones. When Jason finally came down, towel slung low on his hips, Clara watched him, not like a wife, like a detective, like a woman piecing together a puzzle. She never asked for. He kissed her cheek like nothing was wrong. She smiled, and when he left for work, Clara pulled out the card she had tucked inside her Bible weeks ago. Martin Cole, private investigator. Truth has a price. She dialed. Her voice didn't shake this time. "I want you to follow my husband. When your husband starts dressing nicer for a janitor job than he did for his wedding, it's time to follow the scent of his cologne." Clara sat in her car across from her husband's workplace, Bright Path Medical Supply, a modest 4-story office. In downtown Atlanta, she wasn't supposed to be there. She told Jason she was volunteering at Amaya's school. Instead, she was parked in the shadows. Watching the front doors like a hog dot, Jason stepped out of a black Lyft, wearing cologne too expensive for his paycheck, a fresh haircut, and spotless sneakers. Clara narrowed her eyes. That man didn't smell like overwork. He smelled like hotel sheets and guilt. Martin Cole, sitting in the passenger seat beside her, clicked his camera without a word. African-American, mid-40s, suit slightly wrinkled from years of car stakeouts and heartbreak. Surveillance? His eyes were steady, calculating. "He's walking too confidently for a man who cleans floors," Martin muttered. "Something ain't clean about him, and it ain't just the company bathrooms." Clara's lips twitched, but there was no humor behind it. "Keep going. I want everything: calls, texts, addresses. I need to know who she is, what she looks like, where she sleeps, where she lies." Martin gave a slow nod. "You'll get your answers. Just be ready for them." Clara didn't flinch. He opened the glove compartment and handed her a new burner phone. "Use this. Nothing that can be traced. And don't confront him yet. You do that too soon, and all the rats scatter." She clenched the phone in her palm. Heat rising in her chest, Jason walked into the building. Unaware of the eyes burning holes in his back, Clara whispered, "Let's see who you really are, Jason Miller. The scariest thing about the truth isn't finding it's realizing it." Was sitting beside you at the last PTA meeting. 3 days later, Martin Cole handed Clara a manila envelope like it was evidence from a crime scene, and to her, it was. They sat at the back of a quiet diner, the kind where no one asks questions if you cry into your eggs. Clara's fingers trembled as she opened the file. Inside were high-resolution photos, time-stamped and undeniable. Jason, a woman, a hotel, multiple meetings, multiple rooms. Sometimes they walked in together. Sometimes she came later, but she always left alone. Her name was Nia Parker, age 33, marital status, married, occupation, senior account manager at Bright Path Medical. No children. Clara froze. She works at the same company. Martin nodded slowly. Same floor, different departments. Her office is just 2 doors down from your husband's closet. Clara stared at the photos. Nia was stunning. Caramel skin, long box braids, designer heels, and a body that didn't apologize. But it wasn't her beauty that hurt. It was the familiarity. Clara had seen her before. In fact, She remembered sharing a smile with her at the company's Christmas party. She knew, Clara whispered, voice low and bitter. She shook my hand and smiled. She knew who I was. Martin pushed the final sheet across the table. It was a wedding registry printout. Nia Parker is married to Terrence Parker. Clara blinked. Wait, she's married too. Martin's lips tightened. Yes, and her husband? He's one of the janitors at Bright Path. Name's Terrence. Works the night shift. Quiet type. Keeps to himself. The floor beneath Clara's world tilted. Get me his address, she said, voice sharper now. If I'm not the only one being lied to. He deserves to know. When betrayal burns your soul, the only thing colder than revenge is finding someone else with the same scars. Clara stood on the faded porch of a small brick house on Jefferson Avenue. Her heart beat louder than the traffic passing behind her. The sun was beginning to dip behind the trees, painting the street gold. She clenched her fist before knocking, unsure of what she'd say, but sure of what needed to be said that the door opened. Terrence Parker stood barefoot in sweats and a tank top, a tired expression on his face. He was tall, lean, with deep brown eyes that looked like they'd seen too much and trusted too little. His hands were calloused, his voice low and gravelly. Can I help you? Clara swallowed. I'm Clara Miller, your wife. Is sleeping with my husband. The silence between them was unbearable. Terrence didn't blink. He stared at her as if trying to read her soul. She handed him a sealed envelope. Pictures, dates, hotel receipts. I thought you should know. Terrence didn't open the envelope. Instead, he let out a breath that sounded more like a lifetime of disappointment. Thank you, he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. You didn't have to come. Clara turned to leave, but his next words made her stop in her tracks. I always knew she was looking for more than what I could give. Never underestimate the man with the moppies, the one sweeping up all the secrets. Terrence invited Clara inside, and she hesitated, then stepped in. The house was simple clean, but quiet, like it missed laughter. A bookshelf sat crooked in the corner, a half-finished puzzle on the dining table. Clara sat on the couch while Terrence poured them both tea. You said your husband's name is Jason? He asked. Clara nodded. Terrence sighed. He's the one who trains the new night staff, right? Polished, always on his phone. Yeah, that's him. Terrence nodded knowingly. He acts like a manager, but cleans bathrooms like the rest. Of us, I've seen him walking around with her after hours. Thought maybe they was planning a company event or something. Didn't know he was planning my replacement. The word stung Clara in a place she thought had already gone numb. They ever go to room A? Terrence asked suddenly. She blinked. What, that hotel they use? I clean there sometimes on the weekend for extra cash. Room 814. Always find wine glasses and rose petals on Wednesdays. Clara's stomach turned. She hadn't expected. This the man her husband would call just a janitor, knowing more than either of them ever wanted him to. The truth doesn't just break hearts. It poisons everything it touches. Clara sat alone in her bedroom, her face lit only by the glow of her laptop. She'd scanned every credit card transaction, every unexplained charge. She cross-referenced timestamps from the photos with Jason's excuses. Everything matched hand, every match burned. She pulled out their wedding album. There they were smiling. Beneath the Georgia sky, Jason in a crisp gray tux, Clara in lace and promise. And right next to them in the bridal party stood Naya. She had been Clara's co-worker back then. That woman danced at their reception. Clara's throat tightened. She closed the album and stood up, walking to the mirror. Her reflection stared. Back eyes red, hair undone, but something deeper flickered beneath the pain. Resolve. This wasn't just about cheating. This was war on her peace. And Clara refused to lose. She called Martin. I need a reservation. That same hotel, same day, same time. Martin didn't ask why. Clara whispered, I want a front row seat when it all explodes. Sometimes the best revenge is simply pulling back the curtain and letting people hang themselves with their own lies. Wednesday came like a storm. Clara checked into the hotel under a fake name. Room 812. just 2 doors from the infamous 814. She wore sunglasses, a hoodie, and her pain-like armor. Martin was parked nearby with his surveillance equipment. Terrence had agreed to wait downstairs in the cafe, ready when the moment came. Clara sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the hotel wall. At 7:08 p.m., she heard laughter through the wall. Jason's voice, low and familiar. Then Nia's hype and flirty. The sound made Clara's hands tremble. She texted Martin, "They're in. Let's go to dinner. Nothing tastes as bitter as betrayal served with candlelight and fine wine." Clara wore red. Not just any red, revenge red. Her lips matched her dress, and her heels clicked with purpose. When she walked into the rooftop restaurant, heads turned, including Jason's. He stood at a reserved table, clearly confused. "Clara, what are you doing here?" She smiled sweetly. "You said you were working late, baby. I thought I'd surprise you." Jason's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Then Nia walked in, stopping short when she saw Clara seated beside her husband. Her eyes darted from Clara to Jason, and then Terrence appeared behind her. He walked past Nia and sat calmly at the table. Jason exploded. "Why is he here? This man's a janitor." Clara's smile turned to steel. She looked at Jason, then turned to Terrence and raised her glass. To the truth, and to husbands who clean messes they didn't make. Terrence sipped without a word. Then, finally, the dagger fell. Terrence set a phone on the table and pressed play. Jason's voice echoed out, recorded, from room 814. "You're better than my wife. She'd never understand a woman like you." Nia turned pale. Jason went stiff. Clara leaned back in her chair. Dinner was served. You don't know chaos until 4 broken hearts explode in one room with nowhere to run. Jason shot up from his seat, veins bulging in his neck. "You bugged me. You followed me." "No," Clara said calmly. "You handed me the knife and begged me to cut you." Nia tried to leave, but Terrence blocked her path. "Not this time, Nia. You stay. You hear everything?" Her face crumpled. "Terry, I don't," he snapped. "You had a good man, and you gave him away like trash." Jason pointed a shaking finger at Clara. "You don't get to ambush me like this. I gave you my youth," Clara hissed. "My trust, my womb, my love, and you threw it in a hotel trash bin with dirty sheets." The restaurant had gone silent. Diners stared, but Clara didn't care. She looked at Nia. "You slept with him knowing I was his wife." Nia swallowed. It wasn't supposed to go that far, Terrence scoffed. "You mean it wasn't supposed to catch fire with us watching?" The hardest part of betrayal isn't the moment it breaks you, it's learning to walk through the pieces without bleeding every step. After the confrontation, Clara drove home in silence. Jason didn't follow. She'd left him standing on the rooftop, with his sins, his lies, and his mistress's husband at home. She tucked Amaya into bed and kissed her forehead longer than usual. Then she sat on the couch, phone in hand, but not scrolling, just staring. Martin texted, "You okay?" She replied, "No, but I will be." She stood up, walked to the closet, and pulled down a box labeled College Memories. Inside were old notebooks, resumes, and a business plan she had shelved when Jason said, "Let me chase my dream first." She opened it, for the first time in years. Her heart didn't feel like a prison, it felt like a blueprint. The hardest part of healing is realizing you have to throw away the things you once prayed. For Clara spent the next morning in silence, packing Jason's clothes into black trash bags. Each folded shirt felt like an apology she never received. Each cologne bottle a lie bottled and sprayed. Amaya was at school, and Clara moved with the calm of a woman done crying. She paused at Jason's drawer. Inside, beside the socks and cufflinks, was a small box with a ribbonan unopened necklace. A gift, probably. Meant for Nia, a silver chain with a heart pendant. Clara stared at it for a long moment. Then she walked to the fireplace and threw it in. Jason hadn't come home since the rooftop dinner. He hadn't called, hadn't texted. Martin had been right. When you show a coward the truth, he runs from the light. She picked up her phone and dialed her lawyer. "Hi, I'm Clara Miller. I need to file for divorce. Today. Even the prettiest liars eventually look ugly in the mirror of regret. Nia sat alone in her car, staring at her wedding ring. The rooftop dinner played in her head on repeat. Clara's voice, Terrence's disappointment, Jason's silence. She hadn't heard from Jason either. And somehow that made it worse. He'd risked everything for her, and now he had nothing to show for it. She had risked more and lost everything. Her phone buzzed. Terrence, pick up your things. I left them in. The garage doors open. Nia didn't reply. She drove to the house, heart pounding, tears threatening to spill. The garage door was cracked open. Inside, her clothes were stacked in boxes. No drama, no fight. Just a quiet exile. On top was a photo of their wedding day. Terrence had left a sticky note. You lied. That's all I'll remember now. Nia sank to her knees and sobbed. Not for Jason, not for the affair, but because the man who used to love her without question now wanted nothing to do with her at all. Men like Jason don't break. They unravel one thread of ego at a time. Jason rented a cheap hotel room downtown, the kind with buzzing lights and faded carpet. His credit cards were maxed out. His phone was full of unread messages from Clara's lawyer. He stared at the divorce papers like they were written in another language. Clara had always been strong, but this, he never saw it coming. He thought she'd cry, beg, maybe even fight, but she didn't. She cut him out with surgical precision. No yelling, no second chances. He tried texting Nia. She blocked him. He tried calling Terrence. He didn't answer. Jason had lost everyone over lust, ego, and arrogance. And now, all that remained was a reflection of a man he didn't even recognize anymore. There's something powerful about a woman who rebuilds herself from the pieces meant to destroy her. Clara filed her business license on a Thursday. The name, Amaya & Co., a boutique gift and deco brand she had dreamed up years ago. She rented a small space downtown, filled it with handmade candles, personalized journals, and affirmations for women rising from brokenness. Soft but unbreakable, the store's tagline read, Martin stopped by on opening day. He smiled, nodding at the line of customers outside. Told you. Some truths lead to freedom. Clara laughed gently. I used to be afraid of storms. Now I thank them. He handed her a small houseplant. For your new beginning. She placed it on the front counter beside a framed quote. She remembered who she was. And the game changed. Sometimes the devil doesn't come back with fire. He comes with apologies and excuses. Clara was locking up her store when her phone rang. Jason. She stared at the screen for a moment before answering. Clara. His voice was hoarse, tired, weak. Can we talk? She didn't respond. I'm sorry. I was stupid. I ruined everything. I lost you. I lost Amaya. I don't even know who I am anymore. She took a deep breath. You want honesty, Jason? Please, he whispered. You didn't lose me. You gave me away. Silence. I'm not the same woman you lied to. I'm stronger now, and I don't need you to apologize to feel whole. But what about Amaya? Clara's voice softened. You'll see her as her father. But as for us, that chapter is over, and she hung up. The stars blinked above her like tiny affirmations from the universe itself. Sometimes being a father means showing up after you've already shattered the picture. Framed. Jason stood awkwardly on Clara's front porch, holding a bouquet of sunflowers, Amaya's favorite. Clara opened the door, arms folded, eyes unreadable. She's in the backyard, Clara said, and nothing more. Jason walked through the house he once called home. It felt smaller now, quieter. He found Amaya blowing bubbles into the evening air. Hey, baby girl, he said. She turned, her brown eyes wide. Daddy, he crouched low. I'm sorry I haven't been around. Can I hang out with you for a while? She nodded slowly, then ran into his arms. For the next hour, they laughed, built a fort from pillows, and read bedtime stories. But when she fell asleep, Jason just sat on the floor beside her, watching. Clara stood in the doorway. He looked up at her eyes, glassy. I'll never forgive myself. He whispered. Clara didn't respond. She just turned and walked away. Forgiveness wasn't owed, especially not from the woman he once made invisible. When the spotlight fades, the silence gets loud and the guilt screams louder. Nia stood outside her parents' house in South Fulton, suitcase in hand. Her mother answered the door, lips pursed tight. "I need a place to stay," Nia said, barely above a whisper. Her mother stepped aside. "You can have the guest room, but don't bring shame through this door again." Those words cut deeper than she expected. Inside the house smelled like cornbread and lavender oil. Her old room was now a sewing studio. Her mother hadn't saved it, just like her husband hadn't saved their marriage. Nia stared at her reflection in the mirror. More makeup, no fancy heels, just her, raw and undone. She scrolled through her phone, seeing old texts from Jason. Deleted. All of them. Then she opened a blank email draft and began to write, not to Jason, but to Terrence. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I want you to know I lost more than a husband. The best revenge isn't served cold, it's served glowing, thriving, and untouchable." 3 months later, Amaya & Co. had become one of Atlanta's most buzzed-about small businesses. Clara was featured in She Hustles, ATL magazine, and her products had gone viral on TikTok. Women from all over sent messages. "You helped me leave my toxic marriage. Your story saved me from giving up on myself." Clara stood behind her counter, watching 2 customers browse, her heart full in ways no man could ever fill. Martin stopped by again holding another plant. "Brought you a cactus this time. Strong, resilient, hard to kill." Clara laughed. "You know me too well." "You know," he added, "for someone who started this journey broken, you built a whole empire from the rubble." She met his gaze, eyes soft. "Sometimes God lets us burn so we can see what we're made of. When the dust settles, the quiet ones always rise with the loudest victory." Terrence took a promotion at work, head of janitorial operations. Not flashy, but honest. He walked with his head higher these days. Not because people saw him differently, but because he finally saw himself out at night. He volunteered at a youth center, teaching boys about responsibility, honor, and manhood. One evening, he got an email notification. Subject, "I'm sorry," from Nia Parker. He stared at the screen for a long while. Then he typed back, "I don't hate you. I just can't go back. But I hope you find healing. We both deserve peace." When he hit send, it felt like letting go of a heavy suitcase he'd carried too long. And for the first time since that dinner on the rooftop, he smiled. The final chapter of a love story doesn't always end in fire, it sometimes ends in peace. Jason stood outside the boutique, watching Clara through the glass. She looked beautiful, radiant, unreachable. He stepped inside slowly. "I signed the papers," he said. Clara nodded. "Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you for everything. For loving me when I didn't deserve it. For giving me a daughter. For not destroying me when you could have." She looked at him, really looked. "I did destroy you, Jason," she said gently. "I just did it with silence." He smiled sadly. "You always were stronger than me." Clara extended her hand. He took it. "Goodbye, Clara." "Goodbye, Jason." He left, and she locked the door behind him, not with bitterness, but with peace. A new customer walked in minutes later. Breaking the quiet, Clara straightened her dress and smiled. "Welcome to Amaya & Co. How can I help you?" Healing doesn't begin when the pain and zit begins, the moment you stop blaming the mirror for what you chose to ignore. Clara stood in front of her bathroom mirror, smoothing coconut oil over her skin. The reflection looking back at her wasn't the woman who had been betrayed. It wasn't the wife who got left behind. It was someone reborn, a woman who built from ashes. She thought of the old Clara, how she begged for crumbs of affection, how she dimmed her shine to fit into Jason's shrinking expectations. That woman had died on the rooftop that night. She traced her collarbone with gentle fingers, whispering to herself, "I am enough." Amaya peeked in. "Mama, you look like a queen." Clara smiled. "That's because I am one." That night, she lit one of her signature candles, phoenix blossoming, wrote in her journal, "The fire didn't burn me. It freed me. Sometimes love doesn't return in the arms of a man, it shows up in the quiet, waiting for you to love yourself first. Martin walked into the store just before closing, holding a small box in his hand. Another plant? Clara teased. He chuckled. Nope, this one doesn't need watering. Inside was a bracelet, silver, engraved with the words, "She rose." Unshaken, Clara's fingers lingered on the metal. It's beautiful. Martin shifted. I've watched you grow, not just as a businesswoman, but as a woman. You didn't just survive, you transformed. Clara's eyes softened. You think so? I know so, he said. And if you ever want to, grab dinner. No pressure. She smiled. A real one. The kind that reached her eyes. I'd like that, she whispered. Redemption doesn't erase the past, it proves you've learned from it. Jason picked up Amaya on Saturday morning, as agreed. They spent the afternoon at the park, then shared a picnic. Jason was quieter now, more thoughtful. No flashy jokes, just questions about school, her favorite colors, her dreams. Amaya laughed when he told her he wanted to take a painting class so they could paint together. Daddy, you can't even draw a circle. Jason grinned. I can learn, if it means I get to spend more time with you. He strapped her into her booster seat, and before driving off, looked her in the eyes. I'm sorry for everything I put your mommy through, but I promise to always be here for you. Amaya nodded slowly. Just be kind, Daddy. Mommy says real men are kind. Jason drove off with those words, echoing louder than any GPS. Closure doesn't knock on your door, waits patiently inside. Until you choose to answer. 6 months later, Clara stood inside her second boutique location. The grand opening was buzzing. Balloons everywhere. Customers lined up. A local news anchor arrived for a segment on Black women entrepreneurs changing the South. Terrence stopped by during his lunch break, dressed in clean overalls with a quiet confidence. You did it, he said, nodding with pride. So, did you? She replied. They shared a long, understanding look, no bitterness. No regret, I'm dating again, he said. Clara smiled. So am I, he paused. Not Jason. She laughed. Never again, they hugged. 2 survivors, 2 warriors each on a path. They were meant to walk alone before learning how to thrive. The same table where you were once broken can become the place. You toast your rebirth. Clara hosted a dinner softly and warm. Friends, family, Amaya in a yellow dress, running between tables. Martin by her side, holding her hand gently but proudly. A toast was called. Clara stood, holding her glass of sparkling cider. There was a time I thought my life ended at a dinner table, she said, her voice steady. But today, I know it began there. That night didn't break. MIT broke open the door to everything I deserved. People clapped. Clara looked around the room at her daughter, her business partners, her new Lavande, finally at herself. For the first time, she didn't feel like she was surviving. She was living, fully, loudly. Thank you for watching. Please let us know where you are watching from, so we can say thanks. Please don't forget to subscribe.